It was on a harsh, wintry evening that the entire tale truly began, though I suspect the fates had conspired to set its wheels in motion long ago. In Redwood Falls, a small, unassuming town tucked away in a valley of towering pines and rolling hills, life passed in gentle rhythms, marked by the creaking of porch steps and the chime of an old bell outside the local diner. The townsfolk, my neighbors and acquaintances, had grown accustomed to the persistent hush of the snowy nights, the slight groaning of the wind against the shutters, and the reflective hush that settled over the town during a storm. But that fateful night, with flurries dancing like wraiths beneath the pale moonlight, something extraordinary transpired. I, Jack Edwards, have lived in Redwood Falls for most of my life. I inherited my home, a rustic cabin with faded green shutters, from my father who loved the serenity of the wilderness and believed that any problem could be solved by staring long enough into the peaceful swirl of the forest. The house had seen decades of storms, from gentle dustings that glistened in the morning sun to powerful blizzards that rattled the windows in their frames. Yet even I, well versed in the sight of winter's wrath, had never witnessed such a fierce and unrelenting tempest as the one that roared outside that night, when Zara first appeared at my doorstep. All through the day, I had noticed the signs of an impending onslaught. The sky had grown gray and angry by late morning, the air brittle as though everything were turning to crystal. By the evening, the wind had picked up, shrieking through the pine boughs. Snow fell in dense flurries, swirling like miniature galaxies illuminated by the golden porch lights. I sat by the hearth, sipping coffee, reading an old collection of letters written by my great-grandfather, a pastime I found oddly comforting, while listening to the gusts that shook the very foundation of my home. My solitude felt natural, yet tinged with a creeping sense of unease. Shortly after midnight, a strange noise rose above the howl of the storm. It came in intervals, a sound like distant rumbling thunder, but sharper, resonating with a metallic timbre. I set down my cup, heart pounding, and felt compelled to go to the window. Peering through the frosted pane, I could scarcely see beyond a few feet, for the snow whipped violently, swirling in a mad frenzy. Lightning flared occasionally. The storm had brought rare winter thunder, and each flash revealed a brief glimpse of the yard. Nothing appeared amiss at first, but an unsettling instinct told me the wind was concealing something else. Suddenly, a streak of bluish light tore across the sky, vanishing behind my house. The light was swift, almost like a falling star, but it was close, too close, I thought, and it ended with a resounding crash that sent the ground trembling beneath my boots. My first instinct was to dismiss it as a downed power line, or perhaps a chunk of icy debris flung from a passing aircraft. Yet something in my very bones told me this was no mere accident, that something out of the ordinary had taken shape in my backyard. Curiosity triumphed over caution. I wrapped a thick scarf around my neck, put on my heaviest coat, grabbed a flashlight, and carefully made my way out the back door, bracing against the stinging wind. Snow drifts soared up to my waist, each step a colossal effort as I trudged through the deepening sea of white. The flashlight beam danced across the swirling flakes, reflecting tiny crystals back into my eyes, making it difficult to see further than a few paces. After what felt like an age, I cleared a small slope, and there, amidst the sculpted drifts, I saw a dark indentation in the snow. Something large had indeed fallen from the sky. My heart hammered as I pressed forward, shining the light onto a twisted mass of metal, half buried, and emitting a faint, pulsating glow of cerulean and silver. The craft, if that was the right term, appeared smaller than a passenger car, shaped almost like a spiraling teardrop, and composed of some alloy or material I could not identify. It hissed and sizzled softly, as if still reacting to the cold, or perhaps to the atmosphere around us. At first, I feared an explosion, or a radiation hazard, or something equally dire. A prudent man would have fled, or at least summoned the authorities. Yet I felt an inexplicable pull, a sense that this was not something to fear so much as something that needed my help. I inched closer, stepping gingerly, clearing the snow with my gloved hands, searching for signs of life. And that was when I saw a figure curled up against the hull, trembling in the frigid gusts. She was small and lithe, with skin tinted a delicate azure, as though tinted by the cosmic glow of a distant star. Her hair, a deeper shade of midnight blue, shimmered in what little light my flashlight offered. Her eyes, half closed, gleamed with a desperate, pleading expression, though at that moment I did not fully comprehend how I knew the meaning in that gaze, for she spoke no words at first. She wore something akin to a sleek jumpsuit, but it was torn, evidently from the crash or some earlier struggle. Her breath rasped, frosty plumes escaping her parted lips. Without hesitating, I reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder, feeling the trembling of her form. She peered up at me, eyes wide with both terror and hope, and she made a sound, an urgent exhalation, followed by words in a language I could not recognize. But strangely, I felt the plea. "Help me, please." Those words echoed not in my ears alone, but in my thoughts, as if she projected meaning directly into my mind. Realizing she might freeze to death if I tarried, I collected all my courage and lifted her into my arms. She weighed far less than I expected, and her slender limbs clung to me as though I were the last vestige of warmth in a cruel, unwelcoming place. I could see the craft was beyond quick repairs, half shattered upon impact. In any case, the immediate priority was saving her life. I struggled back through the deepening snow, fighting every step, driven by an urgency that burned in my chest. Reaching my back door, I kicked aside the snow, hauled her inside, and set her gently on the worn sofa by the hearth. She lay there panting, her skin, no longer a bright azure, turning a sickly pale. I stoked the fire, pulled every blanket I owned from the closet, and laid them over her shaking body. If she understood me at all, I tried to convey reassurance, telling her she was safe now, though my own voice quivered with nerves. In the golden glow of the fire, I finally got a clearer look at her face. She possessed a fragile, refined beauty that seemed simultaneously alien and deeply human. She turned her gaze upon me, her eyes luminescent like twin moons, and I felt an overwhelming sense of compassion. It was as though our souls recognized each other's solitude in that moment. Over the next hour, I tried what rudimentary first aid I could muster, warming her, checking for visible wounds, offering her small sips of water. My mind reeled with questions. Where had she come from? Why here? How could I possibly communicate properly with her? Yet those concerns had to wait, for her condition seemed precarious. She drifted in and out of consciousness, murmuring strange syllables, occasionally raising a trembling hand to her chest. I noticed a small device strapped around her wrist, glowing faintly with changing symbols. Eventually, her shivers subsided, and she fell into a slumber that seemed at once exhausted and fitful. I covered her up to her chin, then slumped into a chair, uncertain how to proceed. The wind howled outside, hurling ice against the windows, and it struck me that Redwood Falls had never seemed more remote or lonely. I must have dozed off from sheer stress and fatigue, for when I opened my eyes, the first gray light of dawn was brightening the horizon. The storm raged on unabated, though perhaps a fraction less furiously than before. I sat upright, heart pounding anew, and looked to the sofa. She was awake, sitting up, the blanket still wrapped around her. I noticed she was studying her wrist device, pressing the glowing symbols with a careful precision. When she saw me stir, she met my gaze. Her lips parted, and then, quite astonishingly, she spoke in broken but recognizable English, each word steeped in a gentle accent that carried melodic undertones I had never heard before. "You help me, yes? Please. I beg your hospitality, your mercy. I am called Zara." Her voice, though trembling, was resolute. My breath caught in my throat. Alien though she was, I felt a profound wave of relief that we might communicate more directly now, that I might gain some insight into this sudden upheaval in my life. "I'm Jack," I said quietly, careful not to startle her. "Jack Edwards. You're safe here, I promise. But I need to understand what's going on." She looked to the fireplace, as though captivated by the dancing flames, then nodded slowly. "Forgive me. My craft crashed. I am far from home. She paused, swallowing with apparent difficulty. "I had no choice but to seek shelter. This place, your home, it was the only haven in the storm." I found myself kneeling beside her, my curiosity burning. "Zara, you're from another world, aren't you?" She lowered her gaze. "Yes. My people, We call ourselves the Orhana, though your kind might have other names for us. My ship was damaged in orbit. I had to descend here. But there is more, so much more. I tried to gather my scattered thoughts. Well, you can rest here as long as you need. But you mentioned, there is more. What do you mean? She pressed her palm over her heart, eyes shimmering with sincerity. I came not merely by accident. I carry something, an artifact, precious and old. A relic from the ancient powers of my people. It was entrusted to me, and now it is in jeopardy. Powerful forces are hunting me, even here, on your earth. A cold tingle ran through me, and not from the drafty windows. I had never considered the possibility that Redwood Falls, a sleepy town overshadowed by towering pines, could become a battleground for alien powers. Yet the gravity in Zara's voice made me believe it with all my heart. Whatever she was carrying, it had placed her in mortal danger, and apparently, me as well if I chose to continue helping her. Zara adjusted her posture, wincing slightly from injuries unseen. I know this is an enormous burden to ask of you, Jack Edwards, but I beg your assistance. The relic's nature, it is bound to my energy. If I do not protect it, these pursuers could use its power, and the consequences could threaten more than my homeworld. Threaten Earth as well? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Yes, indeed. She bowed her head in acknowledgement. We are all connected in ways your people have yet to discover. The relic can open doors to unimaginable energies. If twisted to malevolent ends, it could devour worlds. In that moment, though I could hardly fathom such cosmic stakes, a quiet determination settled over me. Something about Zara's gaze, her sincerity, her vulnerability, moved me more than I could articulate. Then I'll help you, Zara, I said simply, feeling the words reverberate in my chest as a vow. I don't know exactly how, but we'll figure it out. You're not alone. A faint, grateful smile curved on her lips, and she dipped her head. Thank you. We spent the morning exchanging what information we could. She explained that her wrist device was a translator of sorts, slowly calibrating to my language, gleaning meaning from the bits of English she overheard. That explained how she had managed to pick up recognizable words. As the hours passed, her speech became increasingly fluent, and I found myself astounded by her rapid adaptation. Meanwhile, the storm continued to rage outside, blanketing the town in ever deeper layers of snow, as though nature itself sought to isolate us from the rest of the world. My phone lines were down, and the roads impassable. For the time being, we were on our own. I fed her what little food might be palatable, a thin broth, mainly, for I was unsure what her alien constitution could handle, and she thanked me with a graciousness that felt both regal and humble. Midday brought no respite from the gale, so Zara and I began quietly discussing plans. If your pursuers are here, I asked, do you have a means to contact your home? Or can we get you off the planet? She shook her head wearily. My ship is nearly destroyed. Communication arrays are shattered. The artifact, it draws them to me, and them to the planet. If I do not find a way to contain or shield it, they will surely locate me. They do not fear your storm, your cold. They have advanced means to track me. Unease twisted my stomach. Then we can't stay here. Not for long. The storm might provide temporary cover, but eventually, you'll be trapped. And if these pursuers show up? She nodded grimly, her slender fingers clenching the blanket. My only hope is to reach a place of strong natural energies, somewhere the relic can be sealed or awakened properly. It requires a confluence of forces that exist in synergy with the artifact. Here on your Earth, such confluence might exist in places of great geological or terrestrial power, places with intense electromagnetic resonance or old primal energies. I rubbed my temples, thinking, well, Redwood Falls is built near the Redwood Mountains, and they're known for old deposits of rare minerals, and there might be a network of caves. My father used to talk about them. They say the mountains up north have pockets of geologic anomalies that can skew compass readings. I hesitated. I don't know if that's the kind of energy you're referring to, but maybe it's a start. She gazed at me, brightening with a flicker of hope. Yes, that could be precisely what I need. If the land itself resonates at the right frequency, I might channel the relic's power safely, to hide its signal or to awaken a benevolent energy that ensures it cannot be used for harm. At that juncture, the house rattled in the wind, and I felt an uncanny sense that time was running short. We'll wait for the storm to subside, or at least for it to calm enough for us to travel, I said. Then we'll head into the mountains. Zara bowed her head. Your generosity humbles me, Jack Edwards. My oath to you. If we succeed, I shall not forget your kindness, nor shall my people. We let that promise linger in the hush of the afternoon, the only sound the crackle of firewood and the relentless scream of the wind. Despite the tension, I felt a surprising peace settle over me. Perhaps it was the knowledge that I was doing something that mattered, that this chance encounter offered me a purpose beyond the everyday sameness of Redwood Falls. Or maybe it was simply Zara's presence, calm, dignified, undeniably extraterrestrial, yet also profoundly relatable. The storm kept us confined for the rest of the day. By evening, the howling wind lessened just enough to allow me to poke my head outside. The front yard was piled with drifts reaching nearly to the windows, the trees bent low under the heavy load of ice. The sky glowed with a strangely serene pinkish hue, as sometimes happens after severe storms. We decided to leave at dawn, hoping to find passable trails that led to the mountain caves, where we might harness the Earth's energies to shield Zara's relic. When darkness fell, I wondered if we might face an attack in the night. Zara assured me that she could sense no immediate presence of her pursuers, but that they would certainly come. She believed the swirling energies of the storm might cloak her signal temporarily. Exhaustion claimed me quickly, and I dozed in the armchair by the hearth, waking periodically to feed the fire, my ears always pricked for any sign of trouble. At around midnight, I stirred. The house was quiet, the fire reduced to embers, its glow gently illuminating the cabin. Zara, sitting cross-legged on the rug, was deep in thought, or perhaps meditation. Her eyes were closed, and a faint azure aura glimmered around her fingers, as though she were communing with a power unseen. I observed her silently, struck by the otherworldly beauty of her presence, the mixture of vulnerability and quiet might. Sensing my gaze, she opened her eyes. I am preparing, focusing my mind to harmonize with the relic, she explained. It rests in me, in my essence, but remains dormant until we reach a place strong enough to awaken or shield it. Is it dangerous? I asked. To keep it inside you, I mean. She took a slow breath, glancing down at her hands. It can be, if improperly handled. The relic's energy is older than my people's civilization. We, the Orhana, swore to guard it. I carry it because I am bound to its resonance, capable of merging with it. But the strain is still immense. I nodded thoughtfully, sympathy tugging at my heart. Then let's hope we find that mountain cave soon. She offered a quiet, grateful smile. Indeed. And so the night passed, mercifully without incident. The first light of dawn broke upon a landscape hushed and transformed, mounds of snow glittering like stardust in the early rays. We gathered whatever gear we could muster: thick coats, boots, flashlights, extra blankets, rations, and a battered old map of the region's trails. With the main roads buried, our best bet would be to cut north around the town's perimeter, heading for the foothills. It would be grueling, but if Zara's pursuers arrived, I doubted Redwood Falls would remain peaceful much longer. We stepped out into the crisp morning air. Our breath plumed in front of us, and the snow crunched beneath our feet. Zara wore some of my spare winter clothes over her tattered suit, the combination giving her a mismatched but endearing appearance. I led the way around the side of the house, where the drifts were slightly lower. As we made our way down the slope behind the property, I threw one last glance at the remains of her craft. The crash site was mostly buried, only a few warped metal sections protruding from the snow, silent testament to what had transpired. Part of me questioned the wisdom of leaving it behind, but time was against us. If the device within Zara was truly guiding her pursuers, they would surely discover the crash site soon enough. We trudged onward, heading into a small line of evergreens that bordered my land. The snow-laden branches drooped in majestic arcs, forming natural tunnels. The air was so still, the silence so deep, that I could almost imagine the world had reset, that we too were the only living souls in an endless winter realm. But my heart thrummed with adrenaline, reminding me this was no serene holiday trek. Soon, we came upon the outskirts of Redwood Falls. The streets were eerily quiet. Cars were half buried, and the sidewalks veiled by fresh drifts. In the distance, I saw the rooftop of the old diner, from which a thin curl of smoke rose into the sky. So, at least someone else was awake and keeping warm. I felt a pang, wondering whether we should check on folks or attempt to warn them, but Zara's plight, and indeed Earth's, weighed heavily on me. Diverting from our course might only bring them more danger. Nevertheless, we crept through alleys, avoiding open areas, the hush broken only by the crunch of our footsteps. Zara's eyes remained vigilant, scanning rooftops as though expecting an ambush. Her tension was infectious, and I found myself glancing nervously at every flicker of light or movement of shadow. At last, we left the edges of town behind, forging north toward the rising silhouettes of the Redwood Mountains. The first slopes greeted us with steep hills and dense conifers weighed down by snow. I consulted my battered map, searching for a route that might bring us close to the rumored caves my father had once mentioned. The day wore on, an unrelenting climb testing our stamina, but Zara showed surprising resilience, moving gracefully despite the deep snow and the stiff wind that still blew across the peaks. By afternoon, the sky began to clear, revealing a sun that shimmered in a pale arc, low on the horizon. The temperature was bitter, and I feared frostbite, but we pressed on, determined. The mountains were hushed, as though holding their breath, lending an uncanny stillness to our journey. Eventually, we reached a narrow pass, a chute-like formation surrounded by towering cliffs. My father's stories surfaced in my memory. He had once climbed here as a youth, rumored to have seen glimmering lights dancing along the rocks at twilight. If there was any place in these mountains that might resonate with mysterious energies, I suspected it would be near. Zara paused, eyes shining, as if she too sensed something intangible in the air. This might be the path, I murmured, pointing ahead to where the pass opened into a small plateau. Beyond that plateau, if my memory served, was an old network of caves nestled in a hillside of jagged rock. We were nearly there when a presence, faint but undeniably real, prickled across my senses. The hairs on my neck stood on end. I glanced at Zara. Her eyes widened. "They're here," she whispered. Before I could ask who, a shape materialized atop a nearby rock outcropping. At first, I wasn't sure if my eyes deceived me, but in the glint of the sun, I discerned a tall figure draped in a metallic, form-fitting garb, their features sharp and gaunt, skin tinted a dusky gray. This being glared down at us, eyes glowing with an unnatural radiance. Then, as if summoned, two more figures emerged from behind a boulder, similarly clad, their stances cold and predatory. Zara tensed, stepping protectively in front of me. Her voice trembled. "They are Dathran agents, hunters. They serve those who would claim the relic's power for destruction." The lead figure raised an arm, and a strange, translucent weapon materialized in his grip, crackling with arcs of electric blue. My heart thundered, and I instinctively ducked behind a snowy embankment. Zara's own aura flared, shimmering with intense brilliance. "Run, Jack!" she cried, unleashing a wave of energy that struck the nearest pursuer. The force sent a plume of snow billowing upward, but the alien adversary merely skidded back a few paces, quickly recovering. I should have been paralyzed by terror, but adrenaline propelled me. I scrambled for cover, my breath ragged in the biting air. Zara dodged a beam of crackling energy that sizzled the air, leaving the pungent smell of ozone. She retaliated with a flick of her wrist, conjuring a defensive barrier of shimmering light. The Dathran hunters fanned out, seeking to flank us. In a frenzy, I looked around for anything that might help. These beings were clearly advanced, and I was armed with nothing but the winter gear on my back. One of the hunters leapt from a boulder with startling agility, aiming their crackling weapon at me. I braced for the end, but Zara, with astonishing speed, intercepted the attack, deflecting the energy bolt skyward. "We must keep moving," she shouted. "They will not stop until they have us cornered." I bobbed my head in frantic agreement, pointing to the plateau just ahead. "The caves are close. If we can reach them, maybe you can do whatever you need to do." Zara nodded, pushing a surge of power through her aura, momentarily blinding our attackers with a brilliant flash. Together, we sprinted toward the opening of the pass, struggling across the uneven snow. Behind us, the hunters roared in frustration, their voices echoing eerily off the canyon walls. At last, we stumbled onto the plateau. True enough, there lay the craggy entrance to a network of caves, partially obscured by snow and lichen-covered stones. We dashed inside, our boots scraping on the frozen ground, hearts drumming madly in our chests. An odd hush fell over the interior, as though the outside world had vanished, replaced by the distant drip of water and the soft murmur of subterranean winds. Zara held up a hand, and a faint glow emanated from her palm, illuminating the cavern. It was deeper than I recalled from my father's tales, the tunnel walls lined with spires of sparkling mineral deposits. The very air tingled with an unseen potency, and I sensed we had ventured into a place of ancient power. The question was, would it be enough to keep us safe from our relentless pursuers? We wasted no time. Zara guided me to a chamber with a natural, dome-like ceiling, where curious crystals protruded from the rock, resonating faintly when she passed her hand near them. She closed her eyes, pressing her palm against one of the crystals. Immediately, a ripple of azure light spread through the chamber, like water disturbed by a single drop. "This is it," she murmured, coloring her voice. "The confluence is strong here." I watched in disbelief, my mouth dry. "What do we do now?" She turned to me, trembling slightly. "The relic within me. We must fuse our energies to awaken it safely. Alone, I am not strong enough to channel the Earth's power. I need your help, Jack." "Me?" I asked, startled. "I'm not. I don't have powers. I'm just a regular guy." Her expression softened. "Your essence resonates with compassion, with kindness. My people have learned that such emotional energies can bridge the gap between worlds, between mortal and cosmic. If you trust me, place your hand on mine and open your heart to the relic's light. Together, we can shield it from the Dathrans." I glanced behind us at the tunnel. I could hear distant footfalls, the hiss of alien weapons. They were coming fast. My pulse throbbed. Yet looking into Zara's eyes, I found courage I never knew I possessed. I reached out, covering her slender hand with mine. Her skin felt cool, like a crystal spring, yet comforting. The moment our palms touched, I felt a jolt, as though lightning coursed through my veins. My vision blurred with swirling colors, shapes dancing in the periphery of my mind. I heard Zara's voice inside my head, gentle but urgent. "Let go of fear. Focus on harmony, on the goodness we share." I obeyed, inhaling shakily, allowing a flood of warmth and empathy to rise within me. Memories of simpler times, of laughter around a fireside, of sorrow when I lost those dearest to me, of hope that good could triumph over darkness. The swirling energies intensified. I became aware of Zara's presence melding with mine at a level deeper than physical contact. She was forging a link, drawing upon the raw power beneath the earth, weaving it into an unbreakable shield around the relic. Bright azure light flared around us, so radiant I thought it might burn away every shadow in the cavern. The crystals on the walls hummed in sympathetic resonance. I could feel the weight of an ancient power stirring, as if we had awakened a sleeping giant that now rose in cosmic majesty. In that moment, the Dathran hunters burst into the chamber, weapons raised. One of them launched a searing bolt of plasma, but it fizzled into harmless sparks against the shimmering barrier around us. Another leapt forward, brandishing a blade of crackling dark energy, but again, the aura of light repelled the strike, forcing them back. Their eyes flickered with alarm. Zara's voice echoed through the chamber, layered with her own tongue and an otherworldly resonance. "Be warned, you who seek destruction. This relic shall not be bent to your will. It is protected by the vow of compassion, sealed by the synergy between worlds." The Dathrans hissed, launching another barrage of lethal beams. But the swirling aura absorbed each blow, growing ever brighter. I could feel the Earth's energy coursing through me, each pulse aligning with my heartbeat. Beneath that current, I sensed Zara, her spirit forging a bond with mine. No words could truly do justice to the sublime unity of that instant. At last, the relic's power surged like a tidal wave. A final, blinding flash of light filled the cavern, and I felt a great release, as though countless souls breathed a collective sigh of relief. When my vision cleared, the Dathran hunters were flung against the far walls, groaning and disarmed. The barrier around us shimmered with triumphant luminescence. Zara gently extricated her hand from mine, lowering it to her side. The air gradually calmed, and the crystal's glow receded to a gentle phosphorescence. The artifact, whatever it was, had awakened, yet in a manner that protected and liberated rather than destroyed. Panting, my knees wobbled, and I half collapsed against a rock. Zara rushed to my side, steadying me. "It is done," she whispered, eyes shining with tears of relief. "They cannot use the relic's power now. Its energies have been fused with a resonance of compassion, one they cannot break. My people will be safe, and your world as well." I managed a nod, blinking sweat from my eyes. "So what happens to them?" I jerked my head at the dazed Dathrans sprawled in the chamber. With a measured calm, Zara approached them. They glowered, though fear flickered in their eyes. "You have failed," she said, her voice clear as crystal. "Return to your masters, and tell them this world is off-limits. Should they persist, they will face the unified might of Orhana and Earth alike." Anger flashed across the lead hunter's features, but his shoulders slumped in defeat. He gestured to his companions, and they rose, limping. In a shimmer of distorted air, they vanished, likely teleporting or activating some advanced stealth cloaking. The cavern fell silent once more, illuminated only by the faint glow of the crystals. A massive wave of relief washed over me, and I sagged onto a smooth stone. Zara hurried to my side, concern knitting her brow. "Jack, are you hurt?" "Just tired," I breathed, smiling weakly. "I've never done anything like that before." She exhaled softly, a gentle laugh dancing in her voice. "Neither have I, not quite in that way, at least. You gave me strength, Jack. Without your willingness, I couldn't have sealed the artifact's power, nor driven them away." I looked around the glittering cavern, trying to grasp the magnitude of what had transpired. "So it's safe now? Your people are safe?" Zara's eyes glimmered with quiet joy. "Yes. With the relic stabilized, the threat is greatly diminished. And though my ship is destroyed, I can send a signal now that the artifact is contained. My kin can find me and retrieve us both once we find a suitable vantage point to broadcast." I swallowed, a bittersweet feeling rising in my chest. "So you'll be leaving Earth?" She nodded gently. "In time, yes. I must return to my people. Our struggles are far from over, yet we have gained a victory here that might alter the course of our future. And I owe it to you, Jack Edwards, to see it through." A mingled sadness and joy spread through me. "I'm glad. You deserve to be with your family, your people. But I'll miss you." She took my hand, a warmth passing between our palms, reminiscent of the energy we had shared moments before. "I shall never forget you, and the compassion you showed a frozen wanderer in your storm. You gave me shelter, you risked your life for mine, and that act of kindness resonates across galaxies." For a while, we simply sat in silence, letting the lingering echoes of the cave cradle us. The sun had lowered outside, and I knew night would soon descend upon the mountains again. Yet this time, the hush felt reassuring, as though nature itself approved of our success. In the days that followed, Zara and I made our way back to Redwood Falls. The storm had long since passed, and the townsfolk were gradually resuming their daily routines, digging out vehicles, salting icy roads, grumbling good-naturedly about the season's ferocity. Word of a mysterious meteor or strange lights behind my house circulated in hushed whispers, but few pressed the matter, preferring to chalk it up to local folklore. Zara worked diligently with her wrist device, boosting what remained of her ship's subspace transmitter. On a clear, star-filled night, we ventured out one last time to a secluded hilltop, overlooking the peaceful glow of Redwood Falls below. With the flick of her device, she sent a beam of energy piercing the heavens, invisible to human eyes but resonant enough for her kin to detect. She stood still, hair lifting gently in the cosmic breeze, a regal silhouette against the sky. "They will come for me," she said softly, her voice tinged with emotion, "though it may take them time to reach this remote corner of space." I simply nodded, hands in my coat pockets, wondering how best to say farewell to an otherworldly companion who had changed my life so thoroughly in so short a span. "Jack," she said, turning to face me, the starlight reflecting in her luminous eyes, "thank you. My oath remains. You are forever an ally to me and my people. Should you ever need our aid, call into the night, and we shall listen." A lump rose in my throat. I managed a quiet laugh. "I'm not sure how I'd do that, but I appreciate it." She smiled mysteriously. You never know what doors remain open between our worlds. In the days that followed, we realized it might be weeks before her people arrived. I insisted she remain at my cabin, that she was welcome to stay as long as she wished. She accepted, though often she took solitary walks in the snow, sometimes at dawn, sometimes beneath the moon, as though communing with the Earth's gentle energies. We talked for hours about our worlds, exchanging stories of everyday life, cultural traditions, dreams for the future. Her wonders enthralled me, and I sensed she found a certain comfort in the simplicity and honesty of human existence. I, in turn, found my perspective widened immeasurably, marveling that Redwood Falls, my little home, was now bound to the fate of a faraway civilization. Then one night, as we shared tea by the fireplace, Zara's wrist device chimed. A soft pulse of colored light coursed across the screen, and she gasped. They're near. My kin approach Earth's orbit. My heart clenched with a cocktail of relief and sorrow. So soon. She lowered her gaze. Soon enough. They signal that they can collect me at dawn. They have found a safe place to land, beyond your mountains, beyond the prying eyes of your authorities. I swallowed a lump in my throat. Will I get to say goodbye? Zara's smile was tender. I hoped you would. The final morning arrived. A golden hue stretched across the horizon, a herald of the rising sun that glinted off the fresh snow, transforming the landscape into a shimmering tapestry. I accompanied Zara to the same spot on the hill, and we waited. The air was still, the sky clear, a moment of solemn beauty. Then, silently as a whisper, a sleek vessel descended, hovering above the frosted pine boughs. It glowed softly, crafted of the same mysterious alloy as Zara's craft, though far larger and evidently intact. I gaped in awe as a gentle ramp extended, forming a path of light toward the ground. Two figures, clad in ornate attire reminiscent of Zara's, but more elaborate, emerged. Zara turned to me, her eyes filled with gratitude and a hint of sadness. They come to bring me home, but I shall carry your kindness with me always. I managed to grin. And I'll carry the memory of you, too. Take care out there, Zara. She touched my hand, and in a gesture that felt both alien and profoundly intimate, pressed her forehead lightly to mine. A gentle pulse of warmth passed between us, as though sealing a bond of friendship beyond words. Then, with quiet resolve, she stepped forward to greet her fellow Ohana. They spoke in low, melodic tones I could not understand, though the warmth in their gazes and gestures assured me they approved of what Zara had accomplished. Before stepping onto the ramp, Zara glanced back at me one last time, lifting her hand in farewell. I returned the gesture, my heart pounding with a strange mixture of joy and longing. Then she vanished into the vessel's interior, and the ramp retracted. In a whisper of displaced air, the craft rose into the sky, shimmering like a mirage against the sunlight, until it disappeared beyond the clouds, leaving no trace. I remained there for a long while, alone on the snowy hillside, the wind gently brushing my cheeks. A faint contrail of brilliance seemed to linger high above, but perhaps it was just my eyes playing tricks on me. I let out a long breath, feeling both empty and fulfilled. My life would never be the same, yet I sensed that destiny had not abandoned me. It had merely opened a new chapter. In the weeks and months that followed, rumors circulated in Redwood Falls of strange phenomena in the mountains. Some spoke of shimmering lights in the night sky. Others claimed to have heard haunting, melodic echoes. A few townsfolk saw me return from the hills at odd hours, a contemplative smile on my face. But I offered few explanations, content to let the memory remain mine to keep, and perhaps share only when the time was right. As the seasons changed and the snows melted, revealing the first green shoots of spring, I found myself reflecting on Zara's parting words. My oath remains, call into the night, and we shall listen. I took comfort in that promise, suspecting we were linked in ways beyond my full comprehension. I carried on with my daily tasks, chopping firewood, repairing the fence, reading my grandfather's letters. Yet everything now was infused with a new sense of wonder. I had peered beyond the boundary of ordinary life into a realm of cosmic possibility. Perhaps, in some distant starfield, Zara was looking up at her own sky, thinking of Redwood Falls, remembering the taste of hot tea, the warmth of a human heart, and the bond we forged against the cold. Perhaps we, all of us on Earth, were not so alone after all. I would never forget the night I opened my door to a frozen wanderer from beyond the stars, and the way it changed my life, and perhaps the universe, in ways I was only beginning to grasp. And if one day she or her people needed help again, I knew I would be ready, standing on that snowy threshold, heart open, willing to share the light of compassion with those who wander in darkness. For in the end, that is what bound us, the simple, abiding truth that in helping one another, we become something greater than ourselves, forging a future bright enough to banish any storm. And so I, Jack Edwards of Redwood Falls, remain here in my humble home, confident that kindness can bridge galaxies, and that the greatest journeys sometimes begin with a single step, opening your door and your heart to someone in need. Happy ending. Zara's people honored her bravery, and in the years to come, a peaceful alliance quietly bloomed between Earth and the Orhana, hidden for a time from the eyes of most. Jack received occasional signs, subtle, shimmering lights on clear nights, that reminded him he was never truly alone. And as Redwood Falls pressed on with its everyday rhythms, the relentless hush of winter storms and the gentle ring of the diner bell, an extraordinary chapter in human history lay waiting just beyond the horizon, beckoning those with open hearts to discover the possibilities that shimmer in the star-filled night.